This episode is brought to you by Nespresso. Gift magical mornings with Nespresso Virtuo Pop. Compact and stylish, Virtuo Pop is made to meet every morning coffee craving. From espresso to coffee, hot or iced, at the click of a button. And celebrate the season with Nespresso's limited edition coffee flavors. Sweet almond and hibiscus, cinnamon and candied tamarind, and festive double espresso. Magic in the making. Shop the holiday gift collection exclusively at Nespresso.com.
Big news. Sephora is now on Uber Eats. So if you find yourself facing a beauty emergency, like needing a last-minute gift, or you're just out of your favorite mascara, again, don't panic. We got you. Order now and get $10 off on Sephora orders of $50 or more on the Uber Eats app. Order now. Offer ends October 30th. One order per customer. Additional terms apply. See app for availability. Delivery fees may apply.
It's my favorite time of the week, folks. Here's another episode of The Eagle, a Times Union podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Marshall.
Oh, thank God.
Haven't you heard? I'm the Wicked Witch of the West.
The theatrical premiere of the much-anticipated sequel of the 2024 hit film Wicked is just a month away. The movies, of course, as well as a beloved musical, are based on the wildly popular 1995 novel Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, by Albany native Gregory Maguire. The book just hit its 30th anniversary this year, so we asked Maguire to sit down with us and reflect on how his story has stuck in the minds and hearts of generations of fans. He joins Times Union features editor Sarah Tracy now on The Eagle.
It's been about a year since you and I last chatted, right before the first film came out, the John Chu film came out. It happens to be kind of another Wicked renaissance, part local, part with the second part of the movie coming out. We've got Wicked touring. It's coming to Proctor's in Schenectady. Since that year has happened, I feel like there has been so much that probably has come into your universe. It is the premiere, the general premiere of the first Wicked movie. Right. You were set to release Elfie. Right. So tell me a little bit more about how this last year has been for you.
What was my year like? That's the question you asked. And how have I been changed for good or for ill? And I will say it has been cockeyed and off-piste. You know that phrase, off-piste? I only learned it fairly recently. And nothing like what I might have imagined. For one thing, I have been fairly willing my whole career, which is it's closer to 50 years than 40 right now. I've been always willing to talk to people like you, Sarah, and I've always been willing to be photographed. I've been willing to show up and speak at conferences and schools and colleges and wherever. But I'd say the amount of attention I got in the last 12 months is almost equal to the amount of the attention that I received for my career for the previous, 40 some years. I mean, wow. National TV on every channel, I think. And Terry Gross never called me, for which I'm cross. But, I basically did almost everything. And I did everything that anyone asked me to do, almost without exception, because Harper was putting a lot of money, my publisher, was putting a lot of money into what they called a Wicked commemorative edition, collector's edition, that was the phrase. And Wicked had already been in 4 different hardcover American editions by then. So to do a 5th one for last year, frankly, I thought they were nuts. I lose their shirt. I thought Rupert Murdoch was going to dump HarperCollins as part of his publishing empire, and all because of me. But in fact, the book did astoundingly well. It cost $40 instead of the original 25 of the book 30 years ago, and almost nothing new in it except a new cover and new typeface, and it sold like hot potatoes. It was wonderful, wonderful for them, tiring for me. I
Yes.
didn't mind, and my tax attorneys and my income advisors didn't mind that it sold well, and nor does my family and my non-existent grandchildren. They will be happy years to come that it sold well. But they have supported me for 30 years as a publisher, including years where they were publishing things of mine that didn't really pay out, didn't really make their investment. So I figured it was my honorable duty to help them. And I did all that, talking to everybody who asked, almost everybody. But I was sick of it, and I am sick of it. And it has what it's done to me, Sarah, is it's tipped me over the edge more deeply into a protestation of retirement that is actually coming up for legitimate. I used to say it as a kind of a joke. Well, I guess I'm retired. But of course, I kept working very hard for publicity, and I am still writing. But it wore me out. It wrung out the last tiny fervor for attention that I've ever had, and I've never had very much. I'm not a diva. I don't feel like it even. I don't want or need attention. My sense of self comes from other sources than other people's approval. And so I am very happy, consequently, for all the attention that I got last fall, for it to have clarified in my mind, I only have one life. And I don't know how many more healthy years I have. And I want to name their character for myself, as I have named my whole life for myself. I don't want to be enthralled to big business or to big entertainment any more than I ever wanted to be enthralled to the New York State Retirement Fund or to the Catholic schools where I once taught. I wanted to be my own, to drive my own cart, and I still do. That's what my year was like. It had some unexpected bonuses. My book, Elfie, came out in March of this year, 2025, and it did very well. And then about a month after it came out, Cynthia Erivo said she would like to do an audiobook of it. So even though it had already been released as an audiobook and made a surprising amount of cash from sales, they went back to the studio and she recorded another version of it, within 6 months of the first one. And I confess, I don't want to compare them because I actually didn't listen to the first one. I usually don't listen to them, but because this was Cynthia, I listened to it. She's magnificent. She's a wonderful actress and so intelligent and so sympathetic. So that was unusual. That was great. She and I have become distant sort of messenger friends, every now and then. And now I'm getting ready to go to New York in 10 days to see the preview of part 2 for a screening they did last year too, for the theater community, those people who've helped keep Wicked on Broadway for the last almost quarter century, get an early screening to thank them for all their hard work at keeping the lust for the story alive in the public eye over the past quarter century.
And that is something that I wanted to talk with you about. Is there's this staying power, this longevity of this particular kind of take on the Wizard of Oz through your book, which is it 30 years since it's published, I believe?
30 years, almost 30 years in 2 weeks, just about right now. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And this is based off of, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, which was published 125 years ago now.
Absolutely right.
And the musical came out, was that 2003?
2003.
2003, sure.
Yeah.
So almost like you said, a quarter of a century. We're hitting a lot of anniversaries here. But there is a longevity to this story. There is a staying power to this story of Wicked and this backstory of the Wicked Witch of the West, of Elfie. Why do you think that has resonated so much through so many different media?
Well, I have a theory that I don't hear other people announce, and maybe nobody else thinks it but me, but this is my theory. It is true, as David Stone, one of the producers of the original play on Broadway, once said for a magazine article, we all have a little bit of green girl inside us. That is true. And I'm sure that's a huge amount of the initial attraction, is the identification with the outcast, with the marginalized, with the improperly loved. Who of us doesn't feel, grizzled as we are, that we're outcast and we deserve to be improperly loved because of what we're like? But I don't think that's enough. I myself don't think that's enough to give a story 30 years of legs. I think there is a stronger, more submerged reason why this story has hit in the theater and is hitting now in the movies. And that is because I think for about 100 years, ever since the Lost Generation, after World War I, kind of invented the idea of the failed society, the society of Europe in World War I that couldn't protect itself and ended in one of the worst military slaughters of world history. And the Lost Generation became jaded and disinclined toward the notion of progress and toward the notion of communities that could actually function for the betterment of all. We became disinclined toward that. And after World War II, into the 50s, we began to elevate the notion of the anti-hero, the person who reaches his apotheosis, I think, in Tony Soprano. That's my feeling. But he began with James Dean, and he began with other characters. We identified with them, and we were taught to love them by the artifice of cinema. We were taught to care about them, and we were taught to elevate their survival over the needs of the societies that they were abusing and the people that they were abusing. We couldn't help it. That's what The Sopranos was about. I continue to think it's one of the most brilliant pieces of theater and of TV that I've ever seen. I would posit that that's been a kind of apparent characteristic of how we are socialized and how we socialize in different veins for a century, and it's just gotten more and more deeply embedded. Along comes Wicked, and the opposite word for wicked is good. The opposite concept of being bad is, at the very least, to do no wrong, do no harm. Maybe it's even to be good, to try to alleviate somebody else's suffering, to care about the state of one's, if you want to call it that, soul, to reap benefit from the satisfaction of realizing we are not alone in our native selfish ambitions, but we still are citizens. We are tribal. We are people who live in communities of mammals that look like us. And it is in our interest and in other people's interest for us to take care of one another. I think that that's just as vital an impulse in the human breast, but is less celebrated than it was in the 19th century, the sentimental 19th century, and the early part of the complacent 20th century. But it hasn't gone away. It's just become submerged. I think it's still an appetite. What can I do for somebody else? What good can I do? I only have one life, and I only have one set of muscles and a certain amount of breaths, and I want them to count. Now, this is a long way around of saying that I think that's part of why Wicked has been successful on the stage. It doesn't run away from Elphaba's need to use her crabbed and her deformed, by skin condition, and her spiky personality. She still has the appetite not to do evil with her outcast situation. She too wants to do some good in the world. She wants to do good.
So when we're talking about the different media that this story has been encompassed by, what do you think the musical itself brings to this story that isn't necessarily, I guess, honed by the book, the reading material, or the movie itself?
That's a really good question. For one thing, the fact of a stage play that has to compress a 406-page book in 11-point type into 2 hours and 40 minutes on the stage means that the plot is extremely streamlined. In my novel, it takes 38 years. In the play, not counting for the birth scene of Elphaba, it seems to take under 9 months. The Aristotelian ideal of unity of time, of place, and of character is better served by a play than by a novel, which has a different a different set of strengths and a larger canvas upon which to work. So I think for a lot of people, the story is made more coherent by the musical play. The songs encapsulate and crystallize and boil down the serious and complicated behaviors and moods of all the characters. You really know what the song Loathing means. You only have to hear the first chorus, and you don't need to read 26 pages of what their first 2 months were like to get what that is about. And so it consolidates the movements of the story. The song does. When Stephen Schwartz first approached me about the idea of making it into a musical, part of the way he persuaded me that I should give permission for this to happen is he said, when a character walks forward on the stage and music comes up underneath and he or she begins to sing, it doesn't matter if there are 40 other people on the stage paying attention or not paying attention, singing along or not singing along. The main character is singing to you in the audience. They are implicating you in the secrets of their heart. You get the strength of strong emotion through the aid of music, which helps refine it and carry the emotion, carry the lyrics to you. You get that so much like a happy punch in the face that you succeed and you are more efficient at figuring out what's going on than to read a tiresome book such as yours, which goes on forever. He didn't say that part, but that's what he meant. That's what he meant. And I was, I'm a fan of musical theater. I grew up in Albany. I went to New York from time to time to see shows, and I knew exactly what he was talking about. He was totally persuasive.
So I think we've touched upon a lot here, but I did want to ask you more of a personal question that isn't necessarily Wicked related.
Sure.
In you kind of taking a step back and taking time for yourself, are you currently reading anything? What is interesting you in the literary world?
I'm reading a book that's very, very compelling. It's called The Girls by a man named John Bowen, Bowen. Because it has a cover by Edward Gorey, it has the feeling of being an older book. And yet I'm not sure if it is. Perhaps they took an older picture and slapped it on this cover. I purposely it's a little bit like not wanting to see the trailers. I perfectly haven't flashed to the front forward to see the publishing information and the copyright date, because I don't really want to know until I'm done. The story takes place in the 70s, I think, but I don't know whether it was published in 2023 or this year or what. But it's a comic novel about a couple of women in England in a little village who are a couple, but one of them gets pregnant and they decide to raise the child and then somewhat accidentally murder the child's father. And it's very amusing. It's comically written and the plot is ridiculous, but I'm a sucker for, like English cozy murder mysteries, the Miss Marples of the world. And this is not a Miss Marple story because it's a little bit too ironic. But the writing is luscious and it has nothing but calories. There's nothing healthy in it. But that's what I'm reading right now. I do alternate between serious fiction and light fiction. And about 4 months ago, I read that set of short stories that has since been made into a film that probably has come and gone in the Albany area at the Spectrum in about one weekend, called The History of Sound. I don't know if you saw that. Terribly moving movie, I thought, and I was about the only person I know who's seen it. But the book was great too, and the book was much more complex than the movie was. And so that's something that sticks in my mind as having been something worthwhile to read.
Well, Gregory, I do appreciate you taking the time, especially as you're kind of pulling back a little bit for yourself, which you should, but it's always a pleasure speaking with you. And especially, as we had said before, there seem to be so many anniversaries coming up, big milestones for this, this world that you've created, really.
Well, it's true. And when if I give something to a nonprofit political concern trying to raise money for this or that, and I'm obliged by law to announce what my work status is. Sometimes you have to say, what is your job? Where do you work? Are you retired? That's what they ask. And I struggle to be honest about all that because I really am not retired. I'm retired from public life. I'm still working. I'm working on a novel right now. And the year after that, the novel will come out next fall, and the fall after that, I will be bringing out a type of a memoir. My time of pulling back has allowed me to think more cogently about the path that I've taken from being born in Memorial Hospital in North Albany to where I am sitting here in Concord, Massachusetts, looking rather grizzled and cutting up apples.
Cutting up apples and strawberries.
Yeah.
If you can't get enough of the Wicked universe, you are in luck. The musical based on Gregory Maguire's novel is coming to Proctor's Theatre October 29th, and Wicked for Good premieres in theaters November 21st. For more arts and entertainment news, head on over to the features section at timesunion.com. You can also find everything on our app and on our social channels. That's it for this week. We will be back soon with more from inside the newsroom. The Eagle is a production of the Times-Union. It's produced and edited by myself, Jessica Marshall, with help from Erica Smith and the Times-Union digital team. Our music is Flyin' by Top Floor via Getty Images. Special thanks this week to Sarah Tracy for her contribution to this episode. Got questions or comments about The Eagle or any of the podcasts we produce here at the Times-Union? Email us at podcast@timesunion.com.